Forbearing fans of the color yellow, this is internet personality Vangelus, and today I'll be taking a look at an official and licensed toy of a sun-kissed sports car Autobot robot from Transformers. This is Bumblebee, debut release in ThreeZero's MDLX line, provided to me by ThreeZero for this review, and going for a downscaled robot action figure option from the already downscaled option of DLX, this time with brand new character redesigns by ThreeZero art director Kelvin Tsao. One thing that's absolutely translated down to this slightly less than 5-inch tall Autobot is ThreeZero's quality of sculpting and paint application. I got a big blast of ThreeZero paint fume huff as soon as I opened the box, seeming to taper even more cartoon quality into the live-action realism of 2018's Bumblebee movie designs. MDLX Bumblebee is a horned little VW-plated friend, with lots of panel lines and exposed machine greeble between his larger yellow plates. You might even have spotted some wheels down there in the feet. The final production quality looks really solid for a $60 price point, and really the only major criticism I have is to echo what someone else mentioned to me some weeks ago, which is that the panel lining on the front torso seems to lack the same degree of weathering fuzz that's found on the limbs and head. It still barely registers to me as noticeable, but when I really stare at it and think about how someone mentioned it to me, I can't entirely disagree. MDLX-B is packing a solid, if slim, suite of accessories. In addition to the fists and head already installed, he has open hands, grippy hands, a grippable gun, and an alternate battle-masked head. The hand swaps are quite easy to do thanks to rock-solid balls and stiffly pliable sockets. I've not found any of them scary to pop on or off, nor loose. The gun just nuzzles itself into the grippy hand's plastic embrace, while the head uses another small ball joint to swap on or off. Thing is, it's pretty easy to pop the neck off too, and you only have one of those, so you gotta figure out how to just get the head to come off. It can take a bit of practice to get the head swap to happen smoothly, but hey, that's a solid alternate head. The toyetic battle mask sculpt is loud, intense, and boldly painted with a big blue visor. Another set of hands, or one more melee-oriented weapon, would have been a perfect cherry on top of all of this, but MDLX Bumblebee hits all the most basic accessory needs for this price point. Am I saying I want another Bumblebee hammer? Maybe I'm saying I want another Bumblebee hammer. Who are you up there? That's a joke. It's a toy. He's not alive, but he is looking up at you because he's little. He's not actually that little, but MDLX Bumblebee, like, this is some SH Fig Arts type stuff, and the articulation is up to par. Let me begin with the ball-socketed head and the ball-socketed neck. There's a ball socket at the top and the bottom of the neck, so you can have a little bit of pumping Roxbury if you want, and lots of emotive twists, just as mentioned before. If you're popping the head off, you kind of have to lean it back to pop off the actual head and not take the neck with it. Going into the shoulders, the blocks can go up on their own to get out of the way before you rotate the shoulder outwards. Nice tight joint in there. On the inside, there is a die-cast ball socket scenario that governs the orientation of the entire arm's base mounting point, and with the shoulder hinge, you can shrug it up or down as you see fit. Obviously, you can also go forward. The hand feel on this is like, it's, how do you put it? Satisfyingly creamy is how I would describe this ball socket joint. There is a bicep swivel as well as a double jointed elbow. The two joints have an elbow cap on them so that the sculpted detail is doing its whole thing. You can see some more in there too. It's all greebly and fun. And the wrists are ball socketed, as you saw from the hand swaps. This does mean that the hands can make use of that ball socket range. The open one, kind of like this, a little bit more inwards than upwards. And I have a fist on here just to demonstrate that the fist has its own amount of ovular range. Again, a little bit more inwards than outwards, but just a touch. There is also the gun. Hang on. Even the gun hand can make use of that ball-socketed range. It is a barbell ball-socket joint, so there is a joint that the wrist is attaching to, and then another joint that the joint uses to attach to the forearm. So if you move things around, you get a little bit of nuance in there. Again, it has that kind of creamy, tight feeling, which I hope perseveres through this figure's lifespan. Going into the torso jointage, the waist can swivel. It can do more than swivel, it can tilt and waggle. There are a couple joints that work in here, literally 2. But the torso range, especially for the blocky torso he's got, is pretty solid. There is, detail reveals happening over yonder and over yonder, for those of you who are into that kind of thing. The hips are interesting. So, the instructions for this literally mention, pull the hips down before you really start working with them, just for the sake of having room. They have a similar metal barbell socket docket, metal ball joint connection going on in the groin, so that means you can bring it down, then kick forward, or bring it down, then go outwards, bring it down, go outwards. The splits happen, and you also see how the hip skirts work. The hip skirts are weird. They are connected by a small ball joint at the back. So this means that they look weird, number one, whenever they move outwards, and it's not hard to pop them off. I don't find they fall off on this copy of the figure. Your mileage may vary, you might want to check with some reports if you're really worried about that. But also, you don't really need to interact with that joint. However, it's kind of weird. It's not the aesthetic choice I would have made. I would have had the cut be in here somewhere, but maybe the nature of the sculpt just meant that didn't accomplish as much. But with this available to you, I don't think you gotta worry too much about the nature of how those things are gonna work. There's also thigh swivel up here, and a double jointed knee with a bit of mechanical action, which at this smaller scale is pretty cool to witness and feel. It's got not that interlinked like super deluxe DLX kind of feeling, but stuff is still happening when I do this, and things are still being revealed. And then the ankles have a full range of motion. Down in here, there is a sort of ball socket connection up inside of here. It's a metal ball socket like the groin and the shoulders, and then there is a dedicated hinge for doing stuff like this, along with the natural ball socket motion. And most importantly, the wheel here can freewheel. This is an important detail that is being maintained by ThreeZero when they do their Transformer stuff. If you see a wheel and it's whole, it can spin. So these wheels can still spin. Even if you don't think it has a reason to, that logo wouldn't be there if they couldn't spin! There is no toe joint or anything. There's not really enough to work with here, given that his feet are just big Volkswagen platforms. And yeah, overall, articulation on this guy, given that it is, I think, probably the primary feature for a lot of folks, it is pretty good. And most importantly, it feels pretty good. It doesn't feel as super beefy as DLX does, and I think that's just a limitation of downsizing to this SH Figuarts style scale. However, I do like the creamy tight hand feel, and I hope that it maintains, because if there's one thing that's been kind of putting me off SH Figuarts for the last few years, it's how they are very nice figures whose joints can start to wear down even if I've left them sitting on a shelf for multiple years before moving them back into a box. Not to speak that much of the 2010s era crumbling hip assembly things that I super hope I never see in my lifetime with my collection. I've also never touched my collection in the last 3 years if they've been in the boxes. That's irrelevant. This guy feels pretty good right now, and gives me confidence that he's gonna feel pretty good later on, too. He's got that tactile moxie. MDLX's opening entry hits a lot of high notes, where DLX came out swinging as an affordable parallel to pieces like Metal Build, Kuro Karakuri, or Sentinel Ryobot. MDLX takes a lot of those flavors and crams them into the familiar territory shared by smaller figures like Mafex, SH Figuarts, or Figma. And most importantly, the delightful tactile experience, the high-value hand feel of DLX, that is once again present here, and makes MDLX Bumblebee an exciting first note of hopefully a long string of sheet music yet to come. The piece mainly falters in the strange hipskirt design and the fact that this is a very G1-centric redesign series, at least at first blush. Thankfully, the redesigns have a unifying artist, and I do think the decisions made are pretty cool, but aesthetics are subjective, and packing a cool action figure into such a small package invariably carries the baggage of simply not being able to pack the meaty handful of robot joy experience that was packed by the slightly larger, slightly heavier DLX Bumblebee. How many more times can I say packed? None! Review's over. This has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and I've got more ThreeZero DLX to talk about soon. Many thanks to all my patrons on Patreon, and the very kind coffee last week from Dave. Wait, someone in the back was saying something? Sons? Treaker?